Hello everyone, my name is Tyler Selhorn and welcome to another episode of Speakeasy, the podcast where we discuss communication, capturing our thoughts, and how we share those thoughts with our future selves and others. Managing our brains is core to 21st century work, and we're here to learn how to do it better than we did yesterday. Thanks so much for listening. Speakeasy is brought to you by Cleft, the easiest way to collect your thoughts. With our cross-platform applications, you can simply capture your ideas wherever you are and paste them where they belong later. Today, we are blessed to be learning out loud with Angela Bierman. Angela runs a company called Polka Dot Innovations. Angela has adopted the concept of an identity stack. She's a multi-passionate generalist who is endlessly curious and has a diverse range of interests. Professionally, she started as a chartered accountant, then transitioned into operations, and she's moved into solopreneurship. She is obsessed with technology and efficiency, always striving to make things as easy as possible for everyone. She's also focused on getting more of the right things done, which varies for different people. This concept extends beyond work and career to encompass life and values, ensuring alignment in all areas. Thank you for joining us on the Speakeasy podcast. Angela, I'm curious, how do you help other people capture their knowledge?
Well, thanks so much for having me, Tyler. I'm really excited to be here on the Speakeasy studio. I'm really obsessed with this idea of knowledge capture and knowledge sharing because, it really ties into making everything easier for people. So thinking back to my time in accounting in particular, there were so many policies and procedures and processes. And as we implemented new technology for making those processes easier, we needed, notes and guidance and, hey, I figured out a neat tip and what's the fastest way to do that? So I really leaned into this idea of a knowledge library or some sort of centralized place where not just me as the leader could add content, but that everybody could add content and build that collective brain, that corporate brain, that institutional knowledge so that people could onboard faster. If they left, they didn't take all their knowledge with them. And that was really core to building a successful team and helping us all avoid burnout, which is something that I've experienced a few times, unfortunately.
Okay, so you said the magic word. You said brain, right? And obviously in knowledge work and knowledge management, brains are central to those experiences. And you said that the key ingredient was to build a library, or you said in another phrasing, a corporate brain. Go deeper on that idea for us of why would we want to build a corporate brain?
Well, I love the idea of a second brain personally for personal knowledge management. Excuse me. And this idea, I think, extends into the corporate world where you have somebody who's amazing at their job, but all of their knowledge is locked in their head. And then if they have a personal emergency or if they go on vacation, things can fall apart a little bit in their absence, which makes it hard for them to step away and to disconnect from work. And it makes it hard for them to grow because they're locked into those key tasks. So if they can download their brain and the things that they know and the things that they've figured out, then somebody else can come behind and take on those tasks and learn. And we can keep that centralized and just keep kind of growing and learning from each other. There's always the opportunity to introduce too much bloat. So you do have to kind of trim it occasionally or prune it much like a bonsai tree. But this idea of this central repository where we can all collaborate and learn the different things that other people have figured out is, I think, so important, especially as we adopt so many new technologies. And, in accounting, you've got a various kind of app stack and there's always more than one way to do something. So I love to learn how other people do things. Even when I'm in a leadership position, I learn from my team. And I love when they tell me they figured out a better, faster way to do something.
Okay. Shout out to Tiago Forte and the second brain people,
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
I guess maybe I want to go zoom in on that procedure where you mentioned someone who has some ideas locked inside of their own head.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult for them to disconnect from the business because of how central that information is to the business operating well. When you show up and kind of are connecting with that person that needs to unload what's in their mind, what's that process look like for you and that person or that team that has a person that's like that?
for me, I struggled a lot with perfectionism early in my career. And so as I was building various, resource manuals and training manuals, I was always stuck with, well, how exactly should I organize it? And what are the headings and the sections and how does this all work? And I was stuck in analysis paralysis that I couldn't get anything on paper or in a shared space until it was like just so, I didn't want to have anybody kind of see my raw, unfiltered brain, and because it's a little chaotic in there. So a lot of folks that I talk to feel similarly, where they're like, well, I'll do that when I have time. I'll do that when I'm ready. I'll do that when I have the right ideas to how I want to organize it. And my advice to people I've worked with and to anybody listening is to just get started and to just brain dump somewhere, wherever you can. And you could always go back and clean it up later. When I started building knowledge libraries, I did have a certain structure in mind and some guidance and some templates, but with the speed of innovation and the speed of learning, you can't wait until you have the time to like do it properly and do it thoroughly. It's got to be live. It's got to be regularly updated or people won't use it. So I'm a fan of like sticking in an article in your knowledge base or wherever you're collecting information and like give it a tag or a warning up front, work in progress. Like I'm going to come back to this when I have time. That's going to do two things. It's going to be something searchable that you can be like, what are the ones I was going to come back to, so that when you have that time, you can come back to them. And it's going to serve as a little bit of a warning to whoever sees it of, oh, okay, this might not be, 100% perfect. I'm going to have to just kind of take this with a bit of a grain of salt. But the best advice in terms of knowledge capture and knowledge sharing is just get started. Just find a method or a platform to share little nuggets, just authentically brain dump when you can, put them in a central location. You can go back and edit and connect them later. But until you get over that hurdle and get started, your knowledge is locked away and nobody can benefit from it. Not even you. I mean, we all have those fleeting thoughts and fleeting ideas that it's like, oh, I got to capture that before it's gone. And whether you're in your car or on a walk or whatnot, like you've got to have a method to just kind of capture that magic or it kind of flutters away. That certainly happens to me a lot.
I want to return to something you started in that answer, where you said that you were stuck, right? And that you were afraid of exposing the chaos that was in your brain.
Absolutely.
And you said that the solution was to just get started, to label it as a draft, to label it as a brain dump. I'm starting to like pay attention to when I'm using language that like is less positive. And I guess maybe I'm wanting to like transition from how can we change that idea from like just doing a brain dump, right, to being like, okay, how can I upload my thoughts?
I love it.
Or some other, like, help us move away from like you've done that, right? You're like, yeah, I'm just going to label it work in progress, right? How do we change our mindsets around that, that fear, that analysis paralysis that you mentioned, of sharing what's on our mind? How do we get to the place where it feels like I'm just uploading my thoughts instead of it being a brain dump?
I don't actually think brain dump is inherently negative. For me, it's very freeing because I'm neurodivergent, so my brain gets full. And so I actually love this idea of, the brain is maybe like a bucket of water and it's overflowing and it needs to be dumped. Or sometimes you got to take the trash out if I'm ruminating a little bit, or there's a couple of things in there that have just got to go. So I don't personally find that phrase negative, but if somebody did, which I totally want to validate, I think language is really important, and how we describe our own systems is going to help us, really resonate with them. And so I think how I would respond to that is, it's breaking it down. So instead of, rocks, it's pebbles. Instead of a project, it's tasks. Instead of a whole big thing, it's little steps. And so instead of thinking like, I have to document like everything I know about cloud accounting and how to design an app stack, it's like, I got to get started. So it's that progress over perfection, and it's that pieces. And I don't know about you, but I get such satisfaction from like ticking a box and like making progress. So framing it in that little wins and making progress and doing the thing as opposed to just like, oh, the thing's not done. And I, step by step by step, but it's like, yeah, I did a thing. And so like every single time that you do that is a win, and you're adding to the library and you're adding to your knowledge. And what's really incredible is sometimes you can see the connections afterwards, and you don't get that until you start to put in the little pieces.
First of all, thank you for pushing back on my judgment of the idea of brain dump. I appreciate you telling me that no, that's actually the thing that we want to say.
Well, if it doesn't work for you, that's fine too.
I appreciate you leaving the space open for me to feel differently. I guess I want to like lean into that idea that you said of progress is pieces.
Yeah.
Right? Or maybe I'm mashing together the words that you said, that progress.
Yeah. Progress over perfection, for sure.
Progress over perfection, and that it really is those pieces that if we can tick off like this is done, this part is done. Now we've turned that boulder into those pebbles, right?
Yes.
I guess maybe the thing that for someone who is looking at a boulder, right? What is the jackhammer that gives us the ability to like reduce the size? Like, I'm just leaning into the metaphor there, but
yeah.
We've been stuck, right? We're getting unstuck by just getting started by sharing our thoughts. We're dumping our brain. Like once we have that brain dump, how does it become those pieces that we can tick off? Like how do you process that?
In the corporate world, there's some great knowledge management tools. There's Guru, there's Tetra, and what my approach there is, and their approach as well, is these little bite-sized pieces of knowledge. And so once you have the little pebbles, the little rocks or bricks or however you want to conceptualize it, when you start to connect them back and forth through links, which the search is so powerful in tools like that. Like I'm a Microsoft girly, but like Microsoft search is just not my friend. So I love using a knowledge base because search is so effective in there. So you start searching keywords and concepts and you're like, hang on, I've got 3 cards for that. So I'm going to now add links back to each other or see if there's duplicates. And when it comes time to like talk about personal knowledge management, there's a lot of really cool tools out there that will have like the graph view, which I really love. So you start to put in a couple of little pebbles, a couple of little pieces, and then start to see those connections, and you can kind of zoom out and start to get those pieces. There's this expression I learned from a therapist on Instagram. I apologize, I can't remember her name right now, but it was action soothes fear. And like, how do you start? You start. And I know that sounds kind of scary and intimidating, and particularly in kind of a corporate environment, what I say to folks is you can have your own notes, but we do want this centralized library because that's where we're going to share ideas. That's where it's going to be the most modern and up to date. That's where the checklists are going to live. When somebody figures out something that you got to watch out for, they're going to put it there. It's not going to be in your notes. So if you feel compelled to kind of start with your own notes, like use that as a building block. So just be like, okay, just start capturing your own thoughts, privately and kind of see what they look like. But the best thing that you can do is to kind of connect with people who feel similarly. And if you're a leader of a team, lead by example, put your own messy notes in that knowledge library or that collection or that capture place so that folks can see, oh, hey, even the leader is, putting in these kind of messy, chaotic, unorganized thoughts. Because the first time you connect with a messy, disorganized, chaotic thought and you get value out of it, all of a sudden you realize, I've been judging it as a messy, chaotic, or an unorganized thought, but what it really is just, it's a nugget and it's got value. And every now and then there's going to be a nugget that doesn't have value, but if you don't capture more of them, you're going to lose the, incredible insights that you had when you were walking your dog.
Okay. So, give us a window into, you walking your dog, right? You have a thought. You have a nugget, you've got a pebble that you want to include in the library, right? You want to put on a checklist. How does that get captured for you?
So I've tried a lot of different things, and I've I've done a lot of thinking, particularly when I'm commuting. I've been working from home since 2020, but before that, I did a lot of time in my car, and it was kind of, reflection and thinking about the day and whatnot. So I tried voice notes for a little bit, kind of like 2020, 2021, and it kind of fell off for me a little bit. And, when I'm walking with the dog, it's like, I don't really want to take out my phone and start typing, but I'm also like, oh, am I going to be able to hang on to this until I get home? So I'm actually trying out Cleft right now, which I'm really enjoying.
You said the word. Okay. So promises to the listener, Angela. Yeah, I obviously, like, she's coming on to a podcast sponsored by Cleft. So, like, just be warned that we are going to have Cleft be a part of our conversations here. But thank you for sharing that. But yeah, like, tell us more how that's been valuable to you.
Absolutely. And this is 100% organic, but anytime I see people talking about cool tech tools, I'm like, what's this about? Is this going to come into my personal stack? And so I'm a bit of like a verbal processor. Like, I kind of figure things out by talking out loud. And I really value having kind of a sounding board, whether, it's my husband or a colleague or something like that. But sometimes you can actually get that verbal processing and thinking out loud, like with a voice note. And so with Cleft, like, I can kind of ramble and I can kind of give like a meeting recap, or I can kind of go through some of my thoughts, and then like it'll actually kind of spit it out in an organized fashion. And I'm like, that is what I said, but it's super organized with some headings and some bullets. And I really like that. And then if it didn't capture 100% what I thought, then the original note is still there, of just like exactly, rambly, what I thought. So I've got about like 30 notes so far in it, and I'm really excited to keep kind of sharing those kind of insights as they come up, because I find it so much easier to kind of audio record when I'm walking or driving, obviously, than typing. But yeah, just that act of kind of going for a walk or just stepping away from your desk. Like, sometimes that's just when my brain just kind of engages in a different mode. And I don't have those like big picture ideas when I'm like grinding at my desk. Like, that's when I, get stuff done and whatnot. But kind of that stepping back and seeing those connections and those opportunities and those insights, it usually doesn't happen at my desk.
Well, it's our intention to be able to give people the opportunity to capture those thoughts when they're away from their desk and when they're at their desk, and make it easy for them to share their thoughts when they are at their desk or away. But I think that it's super interesting to hear you kind of leaning into the voice draft space. That's been an idea that I've shared corporately with people, is to say, hey, what was it that we said on that video conference? Hey, what was that when you were talking to your friend? What was that when you were saying to your spouse, right? Yeah. I think that, that is very often the first, a great first draft is to have out loud thinking. The other founders at Cleft are both neurodivergent as well. You mentioned that earlier, and we are huge believers in this idea that capturing our thoughts doesn't depend on what kind of brain you have.
No.
But it does require you adapting to how it works. So I'm like, obviously you're speaking to like a room of strangers here on the podcast, and at least in their podcast feeds. So just, like, whatever amount of that is like safe for you to share. But like, when you think about managing your own brain to give it the opportunity to be its best, what works for you? What are the things that are important to you when you think about being the best you can be as a person with a brain?
Absolutely. I'm late diagnosed neurodivergent, both ADHD and autism. So it's been a real journey of self-discovery for me. And the biggest thing that I've learned is to just kind of like listen to my brain and be gentle with my brain. And I approach a lot of productivity with self-compassion. And so I've taken that into understanding my brain as well, because there are days and weeks and moments when it's on fire. It's absolutely on fire. And so what's really important is to kind of capture that energy and those insights. And when the pattern recognition is firing and I see everything that I want to see, I need to kind of capture that. And those days and weeks and months when I am not on fire and not at my best, I need to make sure to kind of give myself the space and the grace to kind of recover and do a different kind of routine that day. So that's been very important there. And I think that no matter what type of brain you have to start to kind of listen to it. It's much like, training your body, and you need to listen to your body, and you can't go running if your knee is hurting. You have to kind of pay attention to the circumstances and the settings that are going to help you have that peak performance, and try to do more of that, and recognize the settings and the circumstances that are going to really impact your performance negatively, and try to do less of that. So for me, being kind of forced into working from home really unlocked a new level of productivity for me, because I love working from home. There's less distractions. I'm very comfortable. I've got my fuzzy socks on. So it's a very, sensory friendly environment for me, because it's my home, and I can go and take a break if I need to in the middle of the day, and lie down with my weighted blanket and come back and rock out some more work. So that's been really important for me. But whether somebody's neurodivergent or not, all of our brains are unique, and kind of figuring out what fuels them is really powerful.
Thanks for being vulnerable and sharing those thoughts with us. We really appreciate you being a brave person, and just sharing on the podcast at all, but especially about those even very, very personal things. I guess maybe I want to invite you into a kind of like future looking state, right? Of like looking ahead and thinking about what's next for you and for your brain. When you think about this moment of interest around artificial intelligence and large language models, and the idea that the robots are getting better at certain things that we used to do ourselves. What's on your mind? Like, what do you think about when you think about interacting with more robot teammates with even greater capability? What's on your mind there?
I'm excited and a little cautious. So working in accounting and finance, this idea of kind of robotic process automation has been around for a while. And this idea of, you don't have to hand over any control in order to be able to program specific steps in specific ways. So I love that. I'm all about, some optical character recognition to extract invoices, so that, the people who spend all day long just kind of like entering in invoices, like, they have so much more value to add in terms of analyzing, what's missing, or is this unexpected, or, various kind of higher level analysis skills. And so to be able to offload that to machines and robots so that they can do more of what they do best and elevate themselves, I think is tremendous. And that trend has been happening in the accounting industry and continues to happen. And I'm really, really excited about that. In terms of AI, this idea that you could ask questions of your specific data too, like it's not just, the broad internet and gosh knows what else is in there, but this idea of containers really makes me feel better. AI is a bit of a black box to me, and sometimes that's a little bit scary. You put something in and something comes out, but like what happened in the middle? So I'm really attracted to tools that are really focused on privacy and, encryption and, where's your data going, and is it being fed into somebody else's black box? So I'm a little bit, I'm not super cutting edge when it comes to AI. I'll be honest. I'm a little bit kind of that waiting for the second mouse that gets the cheese kind of space. But I see the power, because if we can unlock some insights, even if it's just kind of like suggesting insights, and then the person with the real brain goes nah, but ooh, every now like there's gonna be some connections that we might not have gotten to on our own, or we might not have gotten to as quickly on our own. And so I'm all about freeing everybody up to do their highest and best work and enjoy their lives more, and not put in overtime and have that more kind of fulsome and satisfying life. And like, if AI is going to help us do that, I'm on board.
Well, I am also on board for fulsome and satisfying lives together.
Yeah.
I'm excited about you trying out Cleft and giving that a go. And thank you so much for learning out loud with us today. about, how you manage knowledge and how you center the experience of every person contributing and learning from and making use of a central knowledge repository. I think that's so crucial to our work these days. As we say goodbye, I'm wondering if there's anything that you'd like to ask for from the audience to, like, what should we know about Polka Dot Innovations? And, what would you ask us to do as listeners of you, Angela?
If you're a solopreneur or a small business and you're looking for your next app that's going to make your business better, easier, and faster, you can check out my app library. It's apps.polkadotinnovations.com. It's got 80 entries and counting so far. I've got to go make an entry for Cleft. And I've also got a blog at blog.polkadotinnovations.com that you can check out.
Okay, well, we will make sure to include those links in the show notes. So if you're not wanting to rewind and restart to get those links for themselves, but Polka Dot Innovations is spelled just like you thought, folks, and you'll be able to get there from there. Thank you so much again, Angela. Blessings to you, and have a great day.
Likewise, thank you so much, Tyler. This has been a lot of fun.
The Speak Easy podcast is brought to you by Cleft, the easiest way to collect your thoughts. With our cross-platform applications, you can simply capture your ideas wherever you are and paste them where they belong later. Check us out at cleftnotes.com. That's CLEFTNOTES.com. Thanks for listening as we think aloud together.